Hello and welcome to another video. Continuing my theme of recounting what I watched, played, and listened to in 2022, I have my list of television shows that I watched last year. So unfortunately, IMDb doesn't have an easy way to showcase all of the TV shows that I logged last year, and Letterboxd doesn't have all of the TV shows either. So what I decided to do is I ended up making a list on IMDb showcasing everything I watched in chronological order last year. Starting off with Mr. Robot. Now, Mr. Robot starring Rami Malek is incredible. It is one of the best TV shows I have ever seen. I was a little skeptical going into this one because to me, the premise of a vigilante hacker didn't really seem all that interesting, but I had heard really good things, so I decided to check it out, and I finally got around to watching it late 2021 and finished it at the beginning of last year. And boy was I impressed. There are 4 seasons of Mr. Robot, and honestly, all 4 seasons are at such a high quality. With some TV shows, you get like a slight dip in quality towards the end or maybe in the middle, but here all 4 seasons are very equal in terms of quality, and the show is incredible from beginning to end. Rami Malek gives one of the best performances I have ever seen in television. He is so incredibly brilliant as Elliot. Like, he captures the little nuances of this character so perfectly, and I can't imagine anyone else playing this character. The supporting cast is equally brilliant as well. I especially love their characterization and the different arcs that they all go on. The plot twist towards the end of season 1 is incredible. I actually didn't pick it at all, and I was really blown away. And then after that, I was kind of worried that maybe the show would fall in a bit of a heap, but no, it actually continued to get better and better. The final season, season 4, was actually my favorite of the entire series. The production value just got so much better with each season, and by the end of season 4, like the cinematography, the music, the acting, and a lot of the sequences were incredible. I'd really like to do a podcast on this TV show one day, so hopefully one of my friends eventually gets around to watching it, because Mr. Robot is fantastic, and as you can see by my rating, 9 out of 10 is a very, very high rating for me. Next up is the anime Steins Gate. Now, I haven't seen a ton of anime. Just before this, I watched Cowboy Bebop and thought it was pretty decent, but Steins Gate was the next one on my list. I ended up watching this with my good friend Axel, who is a massive anime fan, and it was pretty good. I don't have a ton to say about this. It's definitely got a very interesting time travel story. I did really appreciate some of the more emotional moments and character-focused situations. There's a string of episodes where a character is trying to save another character from dying, and I think that's when the show's at its best. It's a very well thought out show, and you can tell that a lot of care and attention went into crafting this. The animation style is cool, although it's not going to blow you away or anything, and there's some nice comedic elements as well. I didn't end up loving this as much as most other people did, but overall, like, considering I'm pretty new to watching anime, I did definitely enjoy this one. Next up is American Horror Story, which is an anthology series based on different gruesome events. Specifically, I watched season 5 of this one, which stars Lady Gaga and Kathy Bates, and it's set at this creepy hotel. It was only 10 episodes long, so I don't have a ton to say about this one, other than that I didn't really enjoy it. It definitely has some cool moments. Lady Gaga's performance is actually pretty good. Kathy Bates is a lot of fun as well, but for me it just didn't need to be as long as it did. And some of the more creepy moments I just didn't really care for all that much. I have heard that season 5 is one of the better seasons, and considering that I didn't really like it that much, it didn't really inspire me to want to go and check out any of the other series in this anthology TV show. Next we have What We Do in the Shadows, which is a really fun comedy based off of the Taika Waititi film of the same name. So I watched the film first and I liked it without loving it. I did really enjoy Taika Waititi's direction and performance and some of the more subtle humor. However, it didn't really blow me away. The television show, on the other hand, I would argue is actually better. It takes the foundations and really builds upon them with a new set of characters. They're all really fun, and I really love the mockumentary style cinematography that's going on, and very akin to, say, The Office. It's funny, it's entertaining, it has some good moments, and it's just a really enjoyable watch. If you like half-hour comedies, I'd definitely recommend checking this one out. Give it a season and see how you go. Next on the list is Genius, a Kanye trilogy. So this is a 3-part documentary series exploring the beginnings of Kanye West's career. Now, as a big Kanye fan, I'm obviously the target audience for a series like this, and for the most part it was really good. I knew a lot of this story already, so there weren't a ton of surprises for me, but it was really, really interesting to see so much archival footage of Kanye early on in his career before he became became a mega celebrity and just seeing how different his personality is to the man that we know today. I really like the theme of self-confidence and just how much Kanye really believed himself and how that carried him throughout the beginning of his career. Any of the scenes with his mother, Donda, as well, were particularly heartfelt given what happened to her. Coodie, the guy that made the documentary, honestly got on my nerves a little bit. I found him to be a bit annoying and didn't really like how much he spliced himself into the documentary. Like, sure, I guess it's his own thing, so it makes sense, but to me, Kanye is the more interesting subject, so anytime Coodie was talking about himself, I wasn't overly interested. Another factor I didn't like about this documentary is you could just tell it had Kanye's hands all over it. He didn't approve of anything that made him look bad or anything like that, and because of that, I didn't feel like we were getting the full complete picture. However, overall, look, it was really well made, and as a Kanye fan, it's pretty much a must watch. Next up, we have one of the first big TV shows that I watched throughout the year, and that is 6 Feet Under. So 6 Feet Under is a classic in television during the early 2000s. I went into this one with really high expectations because I've heard a lot of people talk about how great it is and how it had one of the best finales in television history. So it's a dark comedy with a bunch of characters living in a funeral home, which is a super interesting and engaging premise. I haven't really seen this type of thing done before, and I really think this show does a great job of exploring what their lives are like and what their daily duties are working in this funeral home, and really does a great job of milking that for what it's worth throughout its runtime. The characters are real standouts here. Michael C. Hall, who's best known for his role as Dexter, is absolutely incredible in this show, as is Frances Conroy, who takes on probably the lead role of the series, even though it is an ensemble cast. The way the show deals with themes of death and mortality with a hint of comedy is so creative. I think it does dark comedy better than any other show I've seen. There isn't a single bad season here, they're all good, but the final season in particular is a real standout. There's so many emotional and memorable moments from that season alone. For me, it's a must watch for any fan of television. Next up is Midnight Mass, the Netflix miniseries by the same creators that did The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor. Midnight Mass was a bit 50-50 for me. There are some aspects that I really liked and others that I didn't overly like at all. Let's start off with the things I liked. I really liked the setting. It's set on this kind of remote community off in an island, and it's very religious. And then strange things, supernatural things begin to happen, and it kind of has that small town vibe, which I really like. The series is very well shot and very well acted, and from like a technicals point of view, it is really impressive. Hamish Linklater absolutely steals the show in this one though, playing a priest by the name of Father Paul. I have never seen an actor carry a show so hard than he did in this one. It's not that the other actors are poor, but he really carries the source material. Some of the writing in this show is a bit shit. There are numerous monologues that just drag on and on and they don't know when to end. And for me, it really bogs down the show because the premise here works, it's good, it's solid, but I'm getting bored by some of these scenes that just drag out forever. Characters having conversations that just don't matter in the grand scheme of things at all. I think you could edit this down and cut like 2 to 4 episodes and still have a really high quality show. But Linklater's performance is such a standout because he makes even the most boring monologues sound incredible. He really gives his heart and soul in this performance, and he is so incredibly engaging in every scene he's in. He absolutely kills it. I really like some of the more controversial decisions that the show takes as well. In particular, with one character dying perhaps prematurely during the series. It's definitely very shocking and well executed. So while there was a fair bit to dislike about this, there was also quite a lot to like, and overall I did enjoy Midnight Mass for the most part. Next we have Community. Community is a classic among the 20-minute comedies, and last year I finally got around to checking it out. Look, there's so much to talk about when it comes to Community. There's like 6 seasons worth. When the show was in its prime and had all of its main characters, it was really solid. But then once they started losing some of the main characters, actors started stepping away, I think the quality of the show definitely deteriorated. Those first few seasons though are really solid, and while I'm not a big fan of this type of comedy, I did find it incredibly easy to watch and entertaining for the most part. Next is the miniseries Maid. Released on Netflix, Maid is a really interesting exploration of poverty and being a single mother. I think it does a great job of making you care for its main characters, and Margaret Qualley is really solid as the protagonist in this one. She really carries the show on her back because I didn't really like a lot of the other aspects that this show explores. I personally found that this was maybe a little too long. The 10 episodes probably could have been 8. I don't think we needed to see everything we saw. I really liked how it viewed domestic violence and just how tough it is to get out of bad situations, and how sometimes your family isn't always your friend. But overall, it didn't really connect with me all that much. It was good, but nothing great. I think an older audience will definitely appreciate this one a lot more than, say, someone my age. Next up, we have another dark comedy in Barry. Written, directed by, and starring Bill Hader, Barry is one of my favorite TV shows that I watched last year. Basically, it's about a hitman who gets into acting, and he starts enjoying acting so much that he now has to try and learn how to live a double life, which is convenient because he's learning how to act. I really like seeing someone being given so much creative control, as in the case of Bill Hader, who literally does everything here. And it really works because this show is incredibly entertaining. I was really surprised to see just how much care and detail went into Barry's character, and how it didn't neglect for more emotional and serious moments in a show that is rather tongue-in-cheek and comedic. There are some unforgettable episodes in this series. Some are wacky, some are really, really cool, and there's also some moments that will really pull at your heartstrings. Barry definitely deserves more love, and if you haven't seen this one, I highly recommend checking it out. Next up, we have Flight of the Conchords. Flight of the Conchords is a New Zealand comedy, basically exploring the lives of these two band members from New Zealand living in New York. It took me a few episodes to get into this one, but once the humor really clicked with me, I really enjoyed it. It's very quirky and very different to what I'm used to, and I really appreciated that, because I think sometimes these 30-minute comedies are kind of oversaturated with the same type of humor, and once you've seen a couple of these kinds of shows, it gets old really fast. Jermaine and Brett really kill it here. Like, they're so good. You can tell that they just had a vision of what they wanted to accomplish, and I think they absolutely nailed it. I do wish this show was a little bit longer. I think they had more to give. It's got a really subtle style of comedy that's not for everyone, but I really appreciated it. I didn't enjoy some of the more musical elements, like pretty much every episode they have some kind of song, which I'm not a big fan of, but that's just personal preference. Like, I don't like it in pretty much everything. So that's not to say it's bad, it's just not for me. It's really well written, and I really like how it's made on like a shoestring budget with that kind of old style of comedy. Next, we have the first and only 10 out of 10 TV show that I watched last year in Better Call Saul. So if you've seen my podcast, Breaking Bad is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I had heard about Better Call Saul, obviously, but I wasn't overly interested in it because to me, like, the spin-off idea didn't really seem like it could be that spectacular. I decided to wait until the show was finished before I started watching it, and I could tell immediately from season 1 that this was of equal quality to Breaking Bad. I don't really want to say too much more on it because I will be recording a podcast over the next few months with my friend Axel once he gets around to watching it, discussing my thoughts on it in more detail there. But basically, it's very, very hard to get a 10 out of 10 as a television series. I hold that rating to such a high standard, so the fact that Better Call Saul achieved that rating shows that it's definitely worth your time if you haven't seen it. Speaking of spin-offs, House of the Dragon is next, and I have already done a podcast on this one, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. Overall, I thought season 1 was really, really solid, with a fair bit of potential to improve. My skepticisms of this Game of Thrones spin-off were cast aside, as the show is of a very high quality, and I'm really looking forward to season 2. I just wish I didn't have to wait so long. Next up is the miniseries The Outsider. This HBO miniseries was really, really interesting. It went in a bunch of different directions that I didn't really expect. It starts off really, really strong. Like, the pilot episode is incredible. However, for me, that's about where the show peaks. I like the different take this show took towards like a murder mystery kind of vibe. However, it's just one of those miniseries that just didn't need to be 10 episodes long. It's drawn out way too much, and they really could have told this story in about 6 episodes. And for that reason, I gave it a low rating, a 6. Definitely had some really cool moments, but by the end, I was just wanting it to be over. Next is another anime in Cyberpunk Edgerunners. So I was kind of peer pressured into watching this one by a couple of friends who both told me it was really good, and it was for the most part. Like, it was really entertaining, had really cool action and animation, but overall there was nothing overly special about it for me. There are a couple of really solid episodes, and I do like how this is a one and done standalone thing. I haven't played the Cyberpunk game yet, so I'm really keen to check that one out and see more of the story world. It was an entertaining show, but it just didn't really blow me away, and that's why it's kind of got a slightly above average rating of a 6 out of 10. And finally, we have Dharma Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. Such a shit title, to be honest. I don't know why they just didn't call it Dharma For the back end of the year, this show seemed to be all anyone was ever talking about, picked up a lot of mainstream reception and hype, and I decided to check it out, and it kind of jumped a lot of other TV shows on my list. Evan Peters plays serial killer and cannibal Jeffrey Dahmer, and he is the best part of the show. Like, he really nails playing this sociopathic killer. Little things from like the accent and his little nuances, he really nails. Even his like awkward kind of chuckles and the smiling. His performance is so good. Unfortunately, that's about where the quality of the show stops. I think the pilot is really interesting. We kind of pick up just before he gets arrested, and then we go back in time throughout the rest of the season to the beginning. I did kind of enjoy that aspect, but I think at times the show kind of romanticized Dahmer a little bit too much. I've seen some articles where they were saying where they didn't really want to make him feel like empathetic or anything like that. And he definitely isn't, but there was a certain point throughout the show where I was like, yeah, I get it. Like, I've seen this scene play out about 3 times now. I don't think I need to see it again. The pace is quite slow as well, and while I like the gruesome nature of the show, I think this one's definitely overhyped. It had some more creative moments, such as that one episode with the deaf guy, but overall I think this could have been a lot shorter. I didn't really find it to be all that engaging, and without Evan Peters' really strong performance, I don't think I would have been able to finish this one. And yeah, that's it. Those were the television shows I watched in 2022. Have you seen any of these? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. This has been For The Record. I'll see you in the next video.